xin kính chào các quý vị.
Hello, everyone.
Tôi xin mời các quý vị lắng nghe một câu chuyện.
I would like to share a story, not the story of a politician, not the story of a leader, but the story of an ordinary person, a Vietnamese woman whose name is Đặng Thị Huệ, nicknamed Hue Nhu. I used to be a primary school teacher working in the school library, surrounded by books and children. My life was peaceful, with family and job. I didn't start my life with the ambition to become a human rights activist, nor did I seek confrontation with the Vietnamese communist state. I started my life in a family where both parents were members of the Communist Party. I was a teacher who was loyal to the regime, completely trusted the leadership of the Vietnamese Communist Party, and knew nothing about Vietnamese society. Full of injustice, wrongful suffering for the people, and rampant corruption. My life unexpectedly changed when I witnessed the injustices related to BOT, built operate transfer toll stations that were improperly located, with toll collection periods expiring, yet businesses still relied on the state, causing burdens and losses to the people. Our activist group calls this dirty BOT. The main issue here was people pay taxes to the state to build roads, but once the roads were completed, the state hands them over to private businesses to set up these toll stations. The state is appropriating people's money, and people have to pay taxes and fees 3 times for a single road. The amount isn't huge, but it accumulates quickly each time they drive on the road. For example, a round trip for my small 5-seater car costs 70,000 Vietnamese dong, equivalent to 1/3 of my daily wage. Thus, 1/3 of my daily wage goes to the BOT, while I still have to pay taxes to the state and road maintenance fees that are directly deducted from the vehicle owner's account. The toll booths were all located on single-lane roads, leaving no other option but to pass through and pay. After gathering numerous documents, I realized that this injustice occurred not only in one locality, but in 127 BOT projects across Vietnam, all in violation of regulations. We began publicly exposing this problem on social media and received profound attention from the people nationwide. The people began to strongly protest, forcing the communist authorities to dismantle 4 corrupt BOTs to appease the situation. I recorded, live-streamed, and asked questions publicly. I did not call for violence. I did not incite hatred. I only demand transparency and accountability. But in Vietnam, where the Communist Party holds absolute power, they don't allow citizens to question authority. My frequent critique and demands for transparency have become a crime. I'm being monitored, I'm being summoned for questioning, I'm being interrogated constantly. In June 2018, I started protesting against BOT projects. In September 2018, I was abducted by security forces in Thailand while I was walking and forced to delete my Facebook account. In May 2019, 5 plainclothes security officers from Hanoi abducted me in the middle of the street. They dragged me to the headquarters of a corrupt BOT project, gagged me, and beat me. After being released, my friends had to take me back to Thailand to be hospitalized. Doctors had to perform surgery immediately afterward because I had suffered a miscarriage. I was 8 weeks pregnant at the time. There was a deep pain and trauma that has lasted until today. I lost my child not because of fate, but because of the systematic repression of the Communist Party of Vietnam. But it did not stop there. In June 2019, Hanoi police arrested me during a public peaceful protest at a toll booth in Hanoi. They towed away my car and confiscated my phone. In October 2019, Hanoi police prosecuted and detained me, then sentenced me to 39 months in prison on charges of disturbing public order. During the trial, 4 lawyers defended me, but the court did not allow me or my lawyers to speak. The trial was open to the public, but hundreds of police officers were deployed to prevent my family, friends, and supporters from attending.
Phiên tòa mở công khai nhưng huy động hàng trăm công an, rất nhiều cảnh sát ngăn cản gia đình bạn bè gửi ủng hộ đến tham dự. Họ phá sóng điện thoại.
They jammed the cell phone signals throughout the entire courtroom area.
Một bản án không chỉ tước bỏ đi tự do cá nhân mà còn gửi đi một thông điệp mạnh mẽ, cấm người dân Việt Nam lên tiếng.
The court imposed a sentence that was unconstitutional, a sentence that not only deprived me of my personal freedom, but also sent a broader message. Citizens are forbidden from speaking out. In prison, I became a witness to things that the outside world could not see. Harsh detention conditions to punitive treatment. I tenaciously continued my struggle to improve the extremely harsh conditions of the communist prison system for prisoners. Prison guards embezzled provisions. Prisoners were treated as labor tools, exploited in a toxic environment, given reduced rations, served rotten, moldy food, and forced to buy canteen food at inflated prices. I myself was forbidden from seeing my family and was not allowed to receive items sent by my family to the prison. I had to rely on other prisoners for food, clothing, and daily necessities. I will always remember the stories from prison, the faces, the forgotten cries. Upon my release, I continued to speak out and take risks. I recounted what I witnessed in prison on YouTube and Facebook, exposing the corrupt system. My live streams attracted millions of viewers. Across all social media platforms, I recorded up to 100 million views in a single month. I support the families of other prisoners of conscience. I traveled to every prison in Vietnam to inspire other prisoners of conscience who are still being held captive. Security forces throughout Vietnam have been relentlessly pursuing me. My friends who spoke out with me have also been implicated. The most severely affected was detained. I'm not afraid. I continue to speak the truth. They listen to me as if I were their very breath. They see the injustices inflicted upon them by the communist authorities, and they begin to seek me out to speak out about their own grievances. I have also joined many Vietnamese workers who have been oppressed by their employers, facing wage cuts, increased work hours, lack of insurance coverage, inadequate working conditions. For example, the large strike by Viet Glory workers in Dien Châu district, Nghệ An province, resulted in 12 workers summoned by security forces who have faced potential prosecution. We went to the site to investigate and provide legal advice to them. The consequences were, I was released from prison in January 2023. In May 2023, I was kidnapped for the first time. In May 2024, I was kidnapped for the second time. This time, 6 security officers from Thai Binh abducted me in the middle of the road right after I got off a bus from Hanoi to Thai Binh. They confiscated 5,000 USD from my bag and detained me for 24 hours without any detention order. After finding no evidence to incriminate us, they released me and continued to abduct my friends to force them to sign statements claiming they were lured by me on social media, so they would have a pretext to detain me again. After being released for 15 days, at the end of May 2024, security forces in Thai Binh surrounded me in the dark of the night. This time, I climbed over the roof to escape. In June 2024, I was forced to cross the border by land into Thailand, where I was granted emergency refugee status by the UNHCR. In Thailand, I continued my activities. I exposed government collusion projects with businesses that destroyed the sea, such as the one in Gonsan, Nam Dinh, where thousands of hectares of mangrove forests were filled with sand to build a steel plant that discharged waste into the sea. Security forces in Vietnam took my 11-year-old son to the Commune's People's Committee office to question him about his mother's whereabouts, causing him extreme distress. Many human rights organizations protested on my behalf at the time. In June 2025, the Federal Republic of Germany accepted me under their humanitarian policy. When I reported to the Immigration Detention Center in Thailand for relocation, I was again approached by 10 Vietnamese security officers under the pretext of persuading me to return home, but in reality, they wanted to force me back to Vietnam to face trial. In Germany, I continue my human rights activism at the international level. I don't consider myself a hero. I am proof of something very simple. I'm an ordinary person, courageous enough to speak the truth. In October 2025, the Security Investigation Agency of Hue Nhu province initiated legal proceedings and issued an arrest warrant. They even requested an Interpol arrest warrant from me. 12 police officers raided my parents' house in my hometown, read out a search warrant, confiscated our family's private cameras, and installed new cameras to monitor our family's activities in our hometown. The Communist authorities sent a report to Meta to block all my Facebook accounts in Vietnam. YouTube also sent a notification to delete my channel. In addition to all this state repression, I'm facing transnational lawsuits from Vietnam's #1 billionaire, Pham Nhat Vuong, and the giant Vingroup Corporation. They are suing me in Germany as an attempt to silence me for reporting on the products that are harming the consumers. This is a billionaire with connections to high-ranking officials of the Vietnamese Communist Party, aiding and abetting corruption. Ladies and gentlemen, human rights has a face, a name, a story. Today, one of those faces is me, Hue Nhu. I'm telling my own story, a victim of dictatorship, and my wish is not to be silenced. Because when someone is forced into exile simply for speaking out, it's not just a failure of a nation, but a test of the conscience of the international community. Thank you for listening.